Hello everyone, I am Niharika John Mehra, your educator at Unacademy. We are currently doing the course changing active into passive voice. We have covered most of the tenses and the formats used in those particular tenses till now. And today we are going to talk about sentences which have modals in it. Modals are also known as helping verbs, and there are sentences in which modals are present along with the main verb, and the changing which happens from active to passive voice, it happens in a very different manner. How it happens, what is the format, that is what we are going to do in today's lesson. Before moving ahead, a little bit about me. I'm a mass communication graduate and currently doing my PG in MA English Literature. I'm an English trainer at Unacademy and also a freelance personality development trainer. You can follow me right here on this link for all my courses and lessons, or you can click on the follow button which is below the video, and you will be able to access all the courses and lessons which I have made on Unacademy till now. Let's start with the first set of modals, which is can or could. Could is the past form of can. Now, when we need to make a sentence in passive voice, our sentence will start with object, then it will be followed by can or could, then be, and then verb third form. So in active voice, if we have can, it remains same can in passive. If we have could, then it remains same could in passive voice and active voice both. So this is something we need to always keep in our mind. Be is the word which is added for passive, and verb is changed into its third form, which is past participle form. Let's understand this with examples. Now, in active voice, sentences of course will start with the doer, the one who is doing the action, she, then can, modal, solve is first form of verb, and these sums. It is object on which the work is done. She can solve these sums. She cannot solve these sums. Again, the one who is doing the work is in starting, followed by cannot, telling about negative sentence, then solve first form, and then these sums it is the object. Can she solve these sums? Can, here it is a question, it is an interrogative sentence, so it starts with can. Then subject place, we have she, the one who is doing the work, then solve, verb first form, and these sums, it is object. In passive voice, when we will change these sentences, object will come in starting. So these sums, it came in starting over here. Then can remains as it is. Then solve becomes solved, but before it we put be, we are placing be. Then solved, third form of verb, and then by her. Again, these sums which was object in second sentence comes in the starting, cannot remain same. We add be, then we add third form of verb, solved, and then by whom? By her. So this she comes at the last, becomes by her. Now in interrogative sentence, we keep can at the same position in the starting. Then instead of she, we have object over here, these sums. Then we add be according to the format, and solved according to the format again, which is third form of verb, and then by whom it is solved? By her. Next we see has to or have to. So has and have are used in perfect tense, but here we are using it along with to. So in passive, first object will come, then has to or have to will come according to what is given in active voice. Be is added, and then after be, third form of verb. In active voice, for example, he has to complete his project. He is the doer over here. They have to achieve the targets. They, again, we have doer in the starting. That is why it's an active voice. Has to because he is singular, have to because they, it's plural. Complete and achieve are verb first form, and his project and targets are the object on which work is done. Now while changing this to passive voice, his projects or the targets will come in the starting. Let's read the example first. His projects has to be completed by him. The targets have to be achieved by them. So his project, it will come in starting and it is singular. That is why we are using has, and then to will be at its own place along with has, then be, then completed, third form of complete, and by whom it is done? By him. So he becomes him when we put it at the last of the sentence. They have to achieve the targets. It changed into the targets have to be achieved by them. The targets, which was object, comes in the starting. It is in plural. That is why have to. Then we insert be and then achieved, third form of achieve, and by whom? By them. So we place it at last. Next we see we have modal must. When we change it into passive, the sentence starts with the object followed by must, then be, and then verb third form. For example, in active voice, if we are having you must learn this poem. So in passive voice, this poem, which is the object, it will come in starting. Then must will come. Must, as it is here after the subject, here it will be after the object. Then be will come attached to must, and then learnt, which is third form of learn, and by whom? By you. So you here comes at the last, the one who is doing the work. He must buy this apartment. It is in active voice because who is buying the apartment? He. It is in the starting. Then must is there, buy is the first form, and this apartment is the object on which work is done. This apartment will come in starting when we change it to passive. Then must is placed, after that be will come, buy will become bought because bought is third form of buy, and at last by whom it is done? By him. We will place it at the end of the sentence. Next we see may. Now in passive voice sentence or the format will start with object followed by may, then be, and then verb third form. In active voice, for example, I may buy the book. So this action of buying is done by me. That is why I is at the starting, then may, showing that it is the possibility is there. That is why it is a modal. Then buy, first form of verb, and the book on which the action is done. Now in passive voice, if I need to change this object, the book will come in starting. May will remain as at its place. We will add be. Then bought, which is third form of buy, and who is doing this? I am doing this. So it will come in end and become by me. Another example in active voice is I may watch that movie. So what we see here is again I is in the starting, the one who is doing the action, and the movie is object on which the work is done of watching. So that movie will come in the starting, which is the object. So in place of I we have that movie. May remains as it is. Then we put be and then watched, which is the third form of watch, and by whom? By me. Next we see might. Might is sort of past form of may. Whenever we have might word along with a verb first form in active voice, when we need to change the sentence in passive, it will start with object followed by might plus be plus verb third form. So in active voice, let's see example. They might play chess. So they might play chess. They are the people who are doing this work of playing. Might is modal, play first form of verb, and what they are playing, on what object work is done? Chess. So chess will come in starting when we change into passive voice. Might remains at its own position, then be, then played, which is third form of play, and who are playing? They. So at the end we mention by them. Another example, she might stitch a shirt. So who is doing the work of stitching? She. That is why this particular sentence is in active voice. Might is there, stitch first form of verb is there, and on what the work is done? A shirt. This object comes at first and becomes the object in the starting in passive voice. Might remains as at its own position, then be, then stitched, which is the third form of verb, and by whom it is done? By her. So she comes at the last in passive voice. And at last we have should. Should is modal of compulsion, when we say with authority and we ask someone to do something little bit with pressure or force. In passive voice, sentence will start with object again, then followed by should, then be, then verb, third form. So in active voice sentence, if we have students should learn all lessons. Now students are the one who are supposed to learn. That is why this sentence is an active voice. Students is written first, then should is written, then learn, first form of verb, and what are they learning? All lessons, which is object on which the work is done, which is mentioned at the last. It will become all lessons should be learned by students. So in passive voice, this object will come right away in the starting. Should will remain as it is, then be, and then third form of learn, which is learnt. Who is doing it? Students. So by students will come at the last. Another example, I should join tennis. So here we see I is the person doing the work of joining. And what joining? Tennis. Tennis will come in the starting, should at its own position, and in the same way. Then be is added because of passive voice. Join is in first form, it becomes joined, which is third form of verb, and by whom the work is done is mentioned in the last. So what we need to see in the sentences with modals is, first thing we need to check the doer is in the starting or at the end of the sentence, and then be word is always there along with modal, most of the time after the modal, whenever we change a sentence from active to passive. Those sentences which have modal plus verb, main verb. Now that was it for today's lesson. Thank you so much. Stay tuned for more lessons, and please don't forget to share, rate, recommend and review.